desks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
So we're rearranging our desks in a circle.
Yeah, so that you can see each other, you're not looking at me.
We're just turning, I think, Let's just do it. I just feel like it's getting
Sorry. Okay, so before I actually start the activity, just a couple of, I guess, rules of sorts. I really want you guys to be raising your hands, obviously, but more importantly, responding to each other. So piggybacking on each other's comments, and I mean, you can bring up new points, obviously, if it's relevant, but try to respond to each other in a way that maybe helps your peers gain new insights about the literature, or I guess about why. So this section is called Confusing Choices, and as we kind of delved into in the last activity, the choices that we make a lot of times push how we become later in life, or push the way that we develop as people. And so what I want to do for this one is delve deeper into some of Jack's worst choices in the novel. So we'll look at the first one. And the first one, it has a question: why would Jack agree to sail with Hamilton to smuggle drugs? And I tried to pick a passage that I thought emphasized the fact that he knew it was a bad idea when he was doing it, but he chose to do it anyways. So I have, after he agrees, he's running home to his house, and he's really excited, but he's saying this inner monologue to himself. Now settle down and think about what you're doing, be careful, think about what you're risking. But I wasn't answering himself. So he's considering the risks and the bad things that could happen from this, but he stifles his doubts and does it anyways. So what I would like you guys to respond with is why you think he did it anyways, kind of speaking on his behalf and advocating for his decision. Does anybody want to do that? Yeah, sure.
Something that I see in his, earlier on in the book is that he's always looking for something more exciting or more important to write about. He feels his life isn't exciting or important. And I think that he sees this as an opportunity to A, make money, and then B, oh my gosh, excitement. This is something I could write about. This is something he could be proud about in a writing sense. And it's a sense of adventure, too.
I also think living in St. Croix, the use of drugs and stuff was really normalized for him. It seems like everybody did it, and it wasn't a big deal. So maybe in his mind it just was well, whatever. And plus, at the end of it, his ticket to college, I think that was really why he did it. He couldn't pay for college. So.
Okay, so now a follow-up question. Do you guys think he learned anything from this decision, or if it fueled his development at all as a person? If you think so, what do you think he learned?
I don't think he really learned anything until he was in prison. So that definitely fueled his development after he was out of prison, or while he was in prison. But this decision was just of course he was worried he wasn't worried he was gonna get caught, and the punishment behind it. He didn't really think he was doing anything wrong. So, but he didn't learn anything until he was punished.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have a response to that? Okay, that's cool. We'll go into the next decision. Okay, so at the beginning of the book, he stayed with the Bacon family when he first came back to Florida, but he treated them really terribly, even though they were generous to him by letting him stay in their home. And so the question here is, why did he treat the Bacon family so terribly? When they're kicking him out after he projectile vomited over their entire house, they're angry at him, and he says, "I didn't debate their judgment of me as an immature, spoiled brat who needed a major butt kicking in order to straighten up." So to me, that implies he knew that he was being horrible, but he did it anyways. Yeah, Sasha.
I think that he was just he was lost for that beginning part of the novel. And I also think that he was also just being angsty young adult. I don't know. his decisions obviously, like, they progress throughout the novel, but I think that he was just lost, and he didn't necessarily know how to react to his being lost. Like, he didn't know what he wanted to do.
I also think that he wasn't thinking about how his behaviors were affecting them. That wasn't his like major focus. Like I think that's something that's human and also very adolescent. Like you're thinking very selfishly about what's good for me right now. I don't really care about other people, or I certainly don't care about people who are adults. So I feel like that was also going on for him, even though he kind of knew that he was being annoying and probably not great. He just didn't think about the impact that it was on for the Bacon family, for sure.
Was he paying rent? Did anyone remember?
I think he was. Because they were in need of money.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know this is kind of random, but there was one of these like nurseries, I think, where people, like parents would come pick up their kids after it was all after they were done with work and stuff. They would show up late. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, because they're making the caretakers stay there late. And they started charging them extra for how much time it took them to get there. And the parents just started coming later and later because they could pay them to keep their kids later. And it kind of reminded me of this situation, like, if you're paying someone, you almost care less about how you're affecting them because you're like, well, I'm paying them. It's like justifying your mind subconsciously.
It's like you don't owe them as much
Yeah.
because you're giving them money. So it's like, I don't know, yeah.
I think that Jack was also just really trying to be an adult during this. And like he was in high school, but he had been living on his own in a hotel. Then he came to live in the Bacon family, and so he had this crisis of, I want to find my identity and who I am as an adult. But he's living with this family who's kind of dysfunctional within themselves, and so I feel like he's just like trying to be an adult, and how he saw was modeled to him through the hotel workers and through probably even his parents. Yeah.
Those are some really good insights. I'm surprised. That was cool. I guess the last question, but we kind of talked about this. You guys talked about it a little bit, but do you think he learned anything from his time with the Bacons, or if there's any insight that he gained from his time with them? Any epiphanies after he left? Yeah.
I would say it kind of like sent him in a downward spiral. So I think, you know, eventually he learned from being in his time being in prison for that time. So I think, you know, through that, like I don't think he would have gone to prison if he hadn't lived with them. So it's like it kind of set it all in motion quicker, which is good because then he could get on with his life quicker.
If anything, I think he learned more about his experience with the Bacons after he wrote the book, like, or as he was writing the book, like, as he was reflecting on that experience, because it sounds like he felt guilty about it when he was writing it. Like, he felt bad.
Yeah. He did go from the Bacons to the place with the Davy, yeah. So I feel like that transition, I mean, in my own life, like moving away from home and then kind of trying to figure it out at 18, like, what do I do? I wasn't quite so crazy. No, I wasn't crazy at all. But I feel like he did kind of find himself alone in and amongst all of these people in his community, in that living community. But it wasn't like he wasn't fully affecting everybody because he was living on his own in his own space. So I feel like that was a good transition from like I'm in somebody else's space and maybe I have they have rules versus like now I have to kind of set myself up and I have to be independent fully and be responsible for school. So I don't know if that was because of the Bacons, but I feel like that was a good transition in his life.
Yeah.
To move on from there.
A lot of you guys tapped on reflection, and I think that was a big part of this decision. He had to think more about what he was going to do next, and I think that his time with the Bacons forced him to reflect, and I think that we all agree, or could all agree, that reflection is an important